We have Joe Dombrowski on the line to talk some Virgil stories for his upcoming DVD and Global Force Wrestling. Of course, we retweeted it out this morning. Joe, how are you doing, sir?
I am very positive. I'm very happy. I appreciate you guys giving me the time to be here. I'm also very mentally worn out and tired, but I've been juggling, as usual with me, about 5 or 6 different projects that have kind of coincided time-wise. But it's all positive, and it's all for the better, and it's all hopefully going to lead to some entertaining content for you and all of your listeners as well. So I'm happy to be doing it.
I'm sure it will. I mean, come on. This is something that's been going for a little bit between you and Virgil. Of course, we've all seen the pictures of him at various events and signing, I guess. And he just, I don't know. Somehow you and him became intertwined. I believe it was because of a photo that you took while you were at one of these signing events next to him. Is that how this worked out? It's kind of crazy.
I never wanted to do this. I never wanted. Fate chose me to do this project. This wasn't the project I wanted to do. This is the project that fate wanted me to do. Um, I was familiar with sort of the scuttlebutt and the talk about the wrestling industry concerning Virgil. Um, but I'd been lucky enough to kind of avoid him, even though we're both a couple of Pittsburgh guys. But out of all places, New Orleans, Louisiana is where this story starts. Because I was down there for WrestleCon in 2014, and big convention, tons of guests, tons of vendors, all wrestling related. But somehow, as fate would have it, I got put right next to Virgil. Um, I don't know how I drew the short straw there, but of course I had to listen to all of his tall tales. And anytime somebody wanted a picture taken, who had to hold the camera? But of course it was me. Um, and
But
just
that also means people noticed you. So come on, it works out, right?
they yeah, I was the other guy in Virgil and that other guy. So boy, is that just a big boost for my career. And I figured that, you know what, I survived it. We weren't next to each other so much as our table was in our tables were L shaped, so my back was to him for most of the weekend intentionally. But then came Steel City Con here in Pittsburgh, and lo and behold, I show up. There's Virgil right next to me. 3 entire days, 24 hours over that 3 day span. And I heard everything. I heard all of the ridiculous stories that he would tell people, that he was in 17 WrestleManias and he main evented this and he main evented that and he had 20 years in WWE and him and WrestleMania 4 was actually a tag team match with Virgil. Virgil main evented a WrestleMania. I don't know if you guys know that. Um, and I would watch him harass customers, just get their attention and drag them in and try to shyster them into buying a photo. Some of them hadn't watched wrestling in 20 years. Some of them didn't know wrestling, and they just had a kid or a relative that watched wrestling. And anytime somebody didn't buy anything, he would be so rude and belligerent whenever they left. He was just constantly talking to the point where the guy at the table on his other side to his left somehow found a way to switch tables with somebody else before the end of the weekend. I don't know how he did that. I would have loved to get in on that deal. But I went to Facebook and I kind of vented. I kind of let it all out, and it was very cathartic for me. It was very medicinal for me to get that out there. Um, and it was the most popular thing I'd ever written, or maybe ever done. And you could forget Ring of Honor, 1PW, anything else. That didn't matter. But the fact I was mad at Virgil, and the fact that he would sit there and explain to everybody, that he was supposed to end the Undertaker's win streak, and that there was he had a $7 million contract with Turner, and all this other just insanity.
That
Uh,
7 million number though does kind of sound right, given what they were paying other people to not even be on the show. I'm just saying.
Well, and that's a popular retort I've heard a lot, and I have no doubt that old Verge was making more than he was worth. But let's keep in mind that Bret Hart had, I think, a $9 million contract or thereabouts, and that was at that point one of, if not the largest in wrestling history. So I'm not quite going to put Virgil onto that pedestal. But the weeks after that, I'm like, I never want to deal with Virgil again. I never want to see this guy again. He's just, I mean, maybe he means well, maybe he doesn't realize it, but the way he goes on and on and on, just it can get on one's nerves, especially when you know that everything coming out of his mouth for the most part is nonsense. And I'm not sure if he knows that it's nonsense. Maybe not.
This is pro wrestling, Joe. I mean, never let the truth get in the way of a good story, right?
That's absolutely true. But as time went on, people would say, you need to do a DVD about this, or you need to do a book of Virgil stories, or different ideas like that. And I would flat out refuse. Like, no, because that would involve me talking to him and seeing him. And those are two things I'm not interested in anymore. But again, fate put he and I in the same location at the start of this year. And with a deep sigh and a lot of regret, I realized I have to walk into this abyss and do this. So we set up an interview that emanated from Virgil's apartment here in suburban Pittsburgh. We filmed an interview. We got everything out there. We got Virgil's side of every urban legend and Virgil story and myth and anything you've ever heard. We talked to Virgil about it. We give you his side, and we also hear from a lot of his critics via Facebook post, via video. So we give you both sides, much like I did with Montreal a couple of years ago, Montreal Theory, where you get both sides of the story and you can figure out what you think is the truth. So too do we do with the legend of Virgil. You'll hear everybody's miserable, negative experiences about dealing with this man. Virgil explains himself, and you know what? Is he misleading? Is he a con man? Or is he a excuse me, is he a shrewd businessman? Is he misleading, or is he misunderstood? You guys at home will figure that out. I have my answer, but the fun is in the journey, because this is literally the most absurd and ridiculous thing I've ever done, and there's really no other way I could have done this but make it absurd and ridiculous.
And the one thing I want to point out is that this story has gone so far. There have been Deadspin posts about this, so this entire story is mainstream, and a lot of people who probably don't even watch wrestling right now, they probably have either heard or read a Virgil story in their lifetime, because it has been on Deadspin and places like that.
And that's why I want to get this out there, because again, Virgil will kind of prey on John Q wrestling fan and talk himself up as a huge commodity. And then charge, $20 or $30 for a signed photo, and then another $20 or $30 for a photo op with him. Just these outrageous prices. But he goes to the places where people don't know any better. They don't know that you can maybe go to an independent show and meet someone of an equal or greater star value for sometimes a fraction of that. So I think it's important to get that out there so people can see, Virgil's not a victim. And I've read these like Deadspin posts and these Reddit posts where they talk about, Virgil's homeless and he's down on his luck and he needs a buck, and
apparently he needs $1 million.
And we'll get into that in a minute too.
Oh,
but
man.
I mean, I feel compelled to point out that at Steel City Con, those 3 days I was next to him, I have no shame admitting that he made more money than me there. Because of the prices he charges and because of his tactics. He does well for himself. This is a regular living for him. I was at his apartment for a day, and lived to tell about it. So he's not living in a Ted DiBiase Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous like house, but this guy's not under a bridge. He is he's hustling, and he's moving, and he's doing what he can to make a solid living, and the GoFundMe page notwithstanding.
I do have a question, and I'm sort of being serious here. Is this just him being a shyster, or do you think there is like a legitimate mental disability or some sort of an issue there? Because that's one of the things that I've wondered about every time I read one of these stories. Is it one of those things where, he really is this bad of a guy, or is there something that, we as fans don't know about?
Honestly, the best way I can answer that is I think in some respects, Virgil has lied so much, I think he believes some of it. But Virgil, I think, is very well aware of what he does, and he's very well aware that he has critics and haters out there, and I don't think that bothers him. I think he's somebody who embraces that emotional investment, whether it's positive or negative. Obviously, being in the business as long as he has, I don't think he's necessarily the sharpest knife in the drawer, but I don't think that, again, he's not a victim here. He's not somebody that we should pity and feel sorry for. He's somebody that's very successful in what he does, and he has a method, and to some degree it works. And while everybody on the internet finds that hilarious and maybe justifiably so, there's still a very, very large market sample out there that are going to see Virgil at a flea market or a shopping mall or a pet expo or a downtown Christmas tree light up night. And yes, all of those were true, and all of those are discussed on the DVD. Who will be in awe and have this hero worship for somebody they watched when they were a little kid. And let's face it, early 90s, late 80s WWF is very much ingrained in our culture. And there's so many stars, whether it's Hulk or Andre or Macho Man or Warrior or Superfly or Jake the Snake. There's so many talents from that era that have crossed over into the mainstream to some degree. Obviously not to the degree of like Hulk or Rock, but where, pretty much everybody can say, oh, I remember watching this, or I remember my kid watched this, or my husband watched this, or whatever the case is. So Virgil does have some degree of name value, some degree of notoriety that he can milk. But to me, it definitely seems like it's a well-calculated system that he's devised, and certainly has made a lot of money from it.
Well, how can you argue with that? Really, what else is there left to say other than, you have this DVD coming out. It's going to be a lot of fun. I also want to discuss with you some Global Force Wrestling. But before we get to that, we like to keep this a family-friendly show. But, Joe, some of these chapters that I'm hearing on this DVD, some of the subject matters, how safe is this for kids? Come on, be real with us.
I guess the worst thing on the DVD is there are a few F-bombs. And there is a little bit of, I would guess, insinuations of a sexual nature. And we do talk about a particular body part of his.
Let's get real. So one of the posts that you put up on your Facebook page was hearing a story about his manhood, his whatever, and that got apparently a lot of discussion going. So
it got a lot of discussion.
Apparently, you had to talk about it on the DVD.
There is a portion devoted to penis talk, and we do have some facts and figures that we researched up, and we do talk to Virgil about numbers. And everybody's heard about the again, part of the legend of Virgil, the reputation of him having a very large appendage, and and again, we tackle every Virgil story, every myth, every outrageous claim that he's made, and I would be inclined to believe this particular Virgil story, this particular rumor about his appendage. Although to me, he takes it a bit too far in his bragging to where statistically it's a bit far-fetched. And I don't know, again, I don't know how detailed you want me to get here. I don't want to make you, sir, feel inadequate.
Let's save that for the DVD, okay? I'm perfectly fine.
Okay, but we go into double digits, is all I can say. So, we get into the facts and the numbers, and yeah, I'll just say I took his word for it. There was no actual demonstration, but there was an interesting story of when another comical wrestling legend saw it for the first time that he does share with us.
There you go. What more could you people want to know? Joe-Dombrowski.com to get to pre-order the DVD, correct?
Yes, you could save 20% right now if you pre-order it. You have about another little over a week to pre-order it. It officially is released July 29th. I will be down in Charlotte, North Carolina at the Mid-Atlantic Legends Fan Fest all weekend. July 30th through August 2nd, I believe, are those dates, Thursday through Sunday. And that will be the official release for The Legend of Virgil. That'll be your first chance to actually hold a copy of the DVD in your hand. We have a couple of previews up on YouTube right now. Just search Legend of Virgil. There's a little 30-second snippet from the interview. There's also a bonus clip of Virgil in a legitimate fight with 3 men at once. And we're going to release the official trailer, hopefully, a little bit later on this week. So the Virgil buzz keeps growing, and everybody has a Virgil story, Chris. Everybody around the wrestling world has encountered him in some form or fashion, it seems. So feel free to check out this DVD and compare your Virgil story to all the Virgil stories we cover on these discs.
So, Joe, as you said when we first started the show, you just have a ton of projects going on. One of the things that you're doing right now is you're working with Global Force Wrestling, and as they have their big TV tapings coming up in Las Vegas on July 24th, you wrote an article for them. What does GFW mean to professional wrestling? Everyone, you should go check it out, globalforcewrestling.com. So, but Joe, why don't you give a little bit of a snippet here? What does Global Force Wrestling mean to the landscape of independent pro wrestling and pro wrestling in general?
Wow, that question was a mouthful. I'm very excited about Global Force Wrestling because I have been a fan of Jeff Jarrett for a very long time. And, I speak as somebody who had followed the rise of TNA Impact Wrestling from day one, from June 19th, 2002, and seen their ebb and flow since then. And Jeff is the only guy in history that has taken a promotion from scratch and turned it into a global entity. No one else has done that. But I'm excited, and one of the things that makes me most excited about the landscape of wrestling right now is there is more variety and more options for a mainstream wrestling fan than maybe ever before. There are shows devoted to the Japanese style, to the lucha libre style, to the more fast-paced, up and coming, I guess, independent style. You have your mainstream American style. Whatever you want, whatever your cup of tea is, there's somewhere to satiate yourself. But it seems like Global Force Wrestling is invoking elements of all of that. Anybody that's followed the house shows has seen the Bullet Club, Gallows and Anderson and the Young Bucks and what they've done, dominating a lot of the events. We see a lucha libre influence on these tapings in Vegas. 6-man tag. There's a Bestia Say, who I know from Extreme Rising a couple of years back. And you got a lot of talent like the former Justin Gabriel, J.P. Black, like the former Kurt Hawkins, Brian Myers, Chris Mordetsky, who really have not had the opportunity to be themselves and be on a national and global platform as themselves. And it's an even playing field. It is a chance for everybody to step up. It is a cutting edge company. It is not insulting your intelligence. It's putting pro wrestling first. There are I really enjoy a lot of the video packages on their YouTube where they are not writing stories, they're telling stories. Because I've seen in my years a lot of times the reality of the issue is far more compelling than anything that you can come up with in a boardroom. And the fact that you have this entire roster from Sanjay Dutt to Nick Aldis to Congo Kong, coming from different backgrounds, different promotions, different geographic locations, all coming together with a common goal. They've each had their own unique journey, their unique path with their own roadblocks, their own detours, and it's all ended them up intersecting here in Las Vegas. It's very cool to me. And I love the Grand Slam tour. I was doing some sales work for Jeff and for Global Force, and I had a chance to be at the events in Erie and in Cleveland. And see a bit of a different side of it. You know, your live events are always a little old school than your tapings are, but it was fun. You know, the event just flew by. Everybody there enjoyed themselves, speaking as staff and as fans. But that's just one element, and I'm happy to be doing some writing for the Global Force site. I'm happy to be sharing my passion and my interest in professional wrestling and GFW with the general population. And I'm looking forward, just as anybody, to see the fallout of Las Vegas, because I think that's when things will really start to take shape, and we'll see what the GFW vision will be on a grand platform.
Are you going to be there?
I will not be there, no.
That is a
well,
shame.
I mean, I definitely, you know, never will complain about an extra day at home at this point in time with everything I do. But I do greatly appreciate that. I'm very happy doing some sales work on the Grand Slam tour and doing some writing now. Who knows what the future will hold? You know, never rule anything out. But right now, all I can do is you know, support the company and whatever's handed to me, make it the absolute best I can, and hopefully the company will continue to grow.
Well, Joe, we appreciate you spending some time on the newscast with us. We're going to go over some of that Global Force Wrestling news, their new championships, the lineup for Las Vegas show. But for everyone listening, let them know where they can find, you know, the DVD, the pre-orders, your Twitter, whatever you have going on.
Yeah, well, the main website is joe-dombrowski.com. You can check out all of the DVDs I've done. We'll have the trailer up for The Legend of Virgil and his traveling merchandise table as soon as it's ready. Pre-order it now and save 20%, or it officially comes out July 29th. And anybody that orders will get their order shipped out that same day, right before I leave for Charlotte. And then I'll be down at the Mid-Atlantic Fan Fest in Charlotte all weekend. And certainly you can look them up for more details on that as well. NWAlegends.com, I believe, is their website. But you can find me on social media on Twitter at Joe_Dombrowski, Facebook.com/Joe Dombrowski Wrestling. Search me out on YouTube as well. And of course, as you know very, very well, my friend, all my other DVD releases: Finding Zach Gowen, Montreal Theory, Refereeing 101, AJ Styles, The Missing Matches, and of course the Prime Cuts series. First 5 volumes of 10 released now. All great buys, and I appreciate any support you guys can give me. I'm one guy working out of my home, you know, trying to make a difference in the world. So, you know, a purchase of my products supports smaller than small business, and it allows me the chance to continue to make these projects. And for whatever reason you do not want to support anything I'm doing, then I encourage you to get out there and find what you do enjoy, what you do love about pro wrestling, and support that. Support it with your dollar, legally and ethically, because that's the only way you can make a difference is with your dollar.
Absolutely. Joe, thank you for coming on and talking to us. We will have you on again, probably when the thing is officially all put out there, and we'll discuss Virgil and some Global Force Wrestling.
You know what? You are so much more of a pleasure to talk to than Virgil. I don't think you've lied to me once yet, other than telling me how great I am.
Well, you know, wrestling.
We got to butter up our guests, Joe. We're putting you over. That's what we do.
I'm just not used to it. I'm used to being in the shadows, and everybody goes, "Who's that guy? And why is he wearing such a nice suit?"
It is a nice suit, Joe. Have a good evening,
All right,
sir.
You too, my friends. Thank you.
Thank you.